SA's biggest chicken producer reports a 90% crash in interim profits. This as it battles load shedding and tough economic conditions. Astral Foods is also warning the country is facing increased threats to its food security and intensifying poverty. For more, we're joined by Astral Foods CEO Schutte. Chris, good evening to you and welcome. Eskom and Transnet causing major damage to agriculture. Paint a picture for us of what's happening in your operation right now because of this.
Good evening. Yes, unfortunately, as we indicated in our results, the impact of load shedding was tremendous. It wiped out almost our full profit. So the cost of 741 million during these 6 months brought about by load shedding. In total, that add up to about R3.20 per kilo that this additional cost has come about. So at this point in time, we're not able to pass that on. So our poultry division is operating at a loss. And that is because of the load shedding and water disruptions in the towns where we operate. And that's creating havoc amongst our production chain. And it's all adding up cost, and which is brought about not by poultry production, but by the inefficiencies and effectiveness of our SOEs and our service providers.
So what about chicken prices? You talked about, I'm understanding that the cost of around R3.20 will be passed on to consumers to mitigate the impact to your business.
That is so. There will be an effort to do so. We are not insensitive towards the plight of the consumer, so it won't happen at once, but there must be an endeavor. We cannot produce chicken and sell it at a loss for extended period. So somewhere, if we want a sustainable business, somebody is going to have to pay for what the Eskom and the Water Affairs and Transnet is doing to the cost of producing food in this country. So somebody has to bear the cost. We've been carrying that cost now for an extended period, and unfortunately, we can't carry on doing it. So somewhere these costs, additional cost of producing a chicken, will have to be passed on to the consumer, unfortunately.
God forbid you go out of business, but just to make the point to those in power and those responsible for the SOEs who are hearing tonight, if you had to go out of business, what major impact is that going to have, not only on chicken producing numbers, but also on the people you employ?
You see, unfortunately, if you sell the product that you produce at a loss, you start to implement other measures like cutbacks and rationalization and combining businesses to save cost. And that will have, in the long term, a detrimental impact on the volumes that you produce. And that will bring about maybe a vacuum of a shortage of chicken. And that will also have a negative impact on pricing for the consumer. So we would like to produce as many chicken as we can constantly, but we are not allowed to do that because of the shortcomings of Eskom and as I mentioned, all the other SOEs that are involved in the food production chain. So we make a clear statement that the price inflation of food in this country, especially chicken, is currently not because we don't produce effectively or efficiently. It's driven by the inactions of the government institutions. So food inflation currently are mostly driven by things like diesel cost and capital spend on generators and extra backup for water. And so that is what's driving food price inflation. The raw material input cost is actually coming down. So in the true sense, if you didn't have to manage all these inactions of government, chicken prices actually should have softened now. But unfortunately, you have to cover these costs.
Very quickly, in a few words, Chris, are we facing a chicken shortage in this country, and I mean locally produced chickens?
But at this point in time, the quick answer is no. We don't face that. Unfortunately, we as Astral is in a position where we have to cut back to open up space and create a vacuum so that we can slaughter the backlog of chickens that we have on the farm. And that might have a short-term impact on the supply, but not for a prolonged period. So we don't foresee that. And we hope that we can hold prices where they are now until we get some relief from input cost and so assist the consumers that see poultry as the best value proposition from a meat perspective.
And again, talking about locally produced poultry, not necessarily the stuff that comes, through what's considered to be dumping in our economy. Thank you for talking to us tonight, Astral Foods CEO Chris Schutte.